came out to stamp out the tyranny of sin. See, so often we think that when we come to the church is going to be a new tyrant in our life, and they're going to stamp out the sin, or they're going to judge the sin. But no, sin is its own tyrant. Sin wages war on our bodies. Sure, sin feels good at first, but my dad once told me, son, getting drunk's kind of like peeing your pants in a blizzard. It feels real good at first. But just like peeing your pants in a blizzard, the consequences come later. And see, sin is a tyranny in our lives. But instead of the sin of tyranny, Jesus came to offer us the freedom of his righteousness. Not that we have to attain our own righteousness. He gives us his righteousness in place of our sin, in place of the guilt that holds us down, in place of the consequences of our sin, in place of the sin that would disqualify us from doing anything meaningful with our life. We have his righteousness to move forward. In place of the tyranny of sickness, Isaiah prophesied that by his stripes we are healed. We're healed from not only from our sickness, not only from our infirmities, not only from those injuries that have been done to us, but from those crippling mental injuries that come when people have sinned against us. He comes to offer us freedom, not only from the history that we've brought on ourselves, but from the history that others have brought on us. From the tyranny that tortures our mind, that prevents us from being what we should be. Against the tyranny of poverty. The poor had a special place in Jesus' heart. See, they say money can't buy happiness, but poverty sucks. Poverty is a tyranny in and of itself. See, not only does poverty prevent you from doing what people with money can do, poverty plagues you with the worry of how you're going to escape. Poverty ties you down with what you can and can't do. See, money has a powerful influence in our life, and when there's not enough money to go around, it interrupts everything. It prevents us from the freedom of sufficiency. See, I struggled with the poetry and the balance of this aspect here. At first, I started off with the freedom of God's wealth. You know, we know that God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. We know that God's our provider. But see, wealth can become a tyranny in and of itself. Don't get me wrong. I think you can buy a lot of happiness with money. But the troubles that come with money can sometimes be almost as bad as the troubles that come with no money. But Jesus doesn't offer us the freedom of wealth. He offers us the freedom of sufficiency, that we'll have enough. See, where poverty ties us down, no matter how poor we are, no matter how rich we are, when Jesus comes to provide us that proficiency, it's kind of like a joke Dave told me once. It was a genie, wish, you know how the whole thing works. I can't remember which wish it was, but this gentleman makes the wish, and the genie says, don't you want to wish for $1 million? He's like, no, I think I'll wish that whenever I reach into my pocket, that I'll have money for whatever I want to pay for. See, God's a cliffhanger.
Yes, he is.
But when it comes right down to it, everyone sitting in here, when the moment has come, when it's come down to the wire, God has provided. How do I know this? Because you're still here. You've made it through. Your continued existence, the fact that you draw air into your lungs this moment, is proof of the freedom of sufficiency that God has given to you. us from the tyranny of political oppression. Now, this would cause some problems for Jesus' disciples. See, as you're reading through the men that Jesus chose as his disciples, we run across names like Simon the Zealot. We run across James and John, and we find out later that they were zealots. I believe, and honestly, I apologize, I should have prepared this part, but I honestly believe that more than 6 of the men who Jesus chose as his 12 disciples were members of a political party called Zealots. We have a name for those people nowadays. They're called terrorists. Not only did they believe in overthrowing the government by any means necessary, they preferred the means. They were violent men who wanted to bring violent overthrow to the governments at hand. And we see their disillusion, we see their disappointment when Jesus, this King of the Jews, this Messiah, this one that has come to free his people, doesn't take up arms and overthrow the governments at hand. There are Christians around the world throughout history and this very morning that are suffering under the tyranny of oppressive governments. So how does Jesus come to overthrow the tyranny of an oppressive government if they still exist? He gives us the freedom of the pursuit of happiness. See, when we make Jesus our Lord, it doesn't matter who's trying to hold us down. Because if they kill us, we are with God. And if they don't kill us, we're still here. We don't have to subject ourselves to the tyrannical rule of oppressive leaders. We have to be willing to take the consequences of that, but Jesus gives us the strength. And Jesus holds us responsible for defending the defenseless. He also frees us from the tyranny of religious judgment. See, the thing I find not so much amusing but sad is these same men that 2,000 years ago were deciding who's in and who's out and who could have the favor of God and who had to stay outside the temple gates. They've managed to survive, and they're still in the churches today. They're busy about who's in and who's out and who can come to God and who's just too much of a heathen. Who's not worthy of God's love. And while they may not have the guts to come right out and say, their actions betray them. The looks, the whispers, the shunning that would happen should someone who's not worthy show up in a normal church. And a lot of people that find the rest of Jesus intimidating, that stay out of churches, stay out because of this. It's not that Jesus is intimidating. It's not that they fear Jesus' tyranny. They fear the tyranny of the church. But Jesus gave us the freedom of grace. We've got a new sign up on the back wall here. You may have noticed it. You may be less observant than some and not have noticed it. But it says this is a grace place. Grace is the unmerited favor of God. You didn't do anything to deserve it. But grace is not just the get out of jail free card, the you can do anything you want and it's okay with Jesus. No, it's the freedom to follow your conscience, and it's okay if you're wrong.